This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is a special edition of Financial Insanity as we are bringing in a guest to help us talk about love and legacy. I'm Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. And we're bringing in Dave Connolley. You've heard him before. He's been a lawyer in New Jersey for over 40 years and is a consultant currently for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo. And yes, we are all here to discuss estate planning for unmarried partners. Because you see, guys, in a world where love knows no bounds, many couples have chosen a path less traveled by opting for domestic partnership over marriage. But what happens when it comes to securing your future together, protecting your assets, and avoiding those notorious tax pitfalls? We all want to do that. Scott, talk about the fact that people may join domestic partnership agreements for various reasons, right?
There are so many reasons that I've noticed, whether you live in Florida, New Jersey, California, no matter where you live, every state is different, which is why I brought Dave in, and we've worked together so many years, and as a tremendous consultant now with Elizabeth. You know, I think we want to bring a lawyer on, and of course, now as a consultant, because you may be listening to us right now, and you're living with a lovely spouse, and or not spouse, I shouldn't say, you're not married yet, but you're living with a loved one. You don't want to get married, and I've gone through this so many different scenarios, and I don't need to know why you don't want to get married. The question is, what's going to happen if you don't get married, if you pass away? Is she or him, or maybe you have same-sex partners? It's all the same when it comes to this world. And Alex, the challenge I find is, what happens if one of you die? Let's say my girlfriend and I, we, of course, live in my house, and all of a sudden, it's my house. I have 3 children, and all of a sudden I die. Are my kids going to throw my girlfriend out, my lover out? This is so many problems. What happens if I go to the hospital, and then all of a sudden, who's going to make some decisions? What happens if I die and my lover gets some of my assets? What's the taxation? So I wanted to bring Davey in because he's seen this so many times, and I can tell you, when I handle people's finances, this is a problem. This is nothing to put off, guys. If this is you, or maybe you have a friend, or maybe you have maybe you're thinking about maybe having your lover move in with you, and you're not sure how to handle it. You're not sure how to talk to your kids, with over 42 years of experience. Let's have that talk, Alex. People need to give us a call, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And that number, if you hear something today that resonates with you, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And we're not going to have tons of time to dive into each one of these common reasons to join a domestic partnership agreement, to obtain one, but we're going to try to go through this list as best we can. And let's start with one obvious one, guys: tax benefits. Talk a little bit about the potential tax benefits of joining this sort of agreement.
Dave, you just faced a case right now that we're working on together. We won't say names. Right. And you've been helping this family amazing. And this couple did not get married. They were about to get married. Dave, share what's going on and the nightmare and the expense that they could have avoided.
The good news is that the estate is worth close to $2 million, which is great. The bad news is that for personal reasons, that the couple who were living together for several years did not want to get married at this time and did not enter into a domestic partnership agreement. He was in his 50s and unfortunately took a heart attack and left everything to his live-in. And as a result of not being married, they are going to pay, or she's going to pay, somewhere around $300,000 to the state of New Jersey. That's inheritance taxes. That could have been afforded if they had, even if they're not married, if they had registered as a domestic partnership. Domestic partnership is given the same benefits in inheritance taxes as a married couple. So the $300,000 would have went away and everything still would have went to the spouse. But you have to take that initial step to register for the domestic partnership. In order to qualify for a domestic partnership, it can be same-sex couples or opposite sex. You have to be both parties have to be 62 years or older. They have to share a common residence in New Jersey. Both have to be jointly responsible for each other's common welfare and have either financial arrangements that they're both responsible for each other, joint ownership in real estate, joint ownership in personal property, and then they're truly responsible for each other. They have to, neither applicant can be married or in a civil union relationship with another party. You have to take this application for domestic partnership and you file it in any municipality in the state of New Jersey. You take the application, you fill it out in front of a notary, you pay a fee, I think it's $28, and then they will give you an affidavit of domestic partnership, confirming that you are in a relationship. That would eliminate the inheritance taxes, and that's probably the biggest benefit.
Well, and Dave, you talked $28 there, roughly to get that, to save yourself $300,000. And what I hear sometimes is people will say, well, I'm not getting married. It's just paperwork. It doesn't mean anything. It's just whatever. Government can just get our hand in our relationship or something. Well, this is a great example of, that little bit of paperwork, there can be a good reason. You become incapacitated or, God forbid you pass away. You want to have things lined up correctly. And sometimes having, if it's not a marriage, this sort of domestic partnership agreement can protect you. And so thank you for going over the tax benefits. And I skipped over one, legal protections, an obvious one as well, kind of in the same vein there. So if you would, discuss that a little bit, legal protections for a couple in this sort of agreement.
I'd met a couple, a lovely couple. They've been living together for 17 years. And I said, why the heck you guys ain't getting married now? What's going on? Oh, Scotty, we've been through it. My lovely girlfriend here, and I want to make sure she's taken care of. And but I didn't want to, I just didn't want to go that route. Okay, great. So you've been together 17 years. And I said to this young lady, because she was the owner of the house, we'll call her Maggie. We'll call her like my daughter's name. So Maggie was married to, let's say, a guy named Tom. And so Maggie and Tom are not married, but together 17 years. And I said, Maggie, in the event you pass away, is Tom allowed to stay at the house? Because Tom has 2 children and Maggie has 3 children. And Maggie said, well, sure he can. Do you have something in writing? Well, no. Dave, if you remember this family, you did
Absolutely.
The agreement, and basically, what would happen if they didn't do a agreement? What do you call this agreement to make sure that this partner Tom can stay in Maggie's house, take care of it? What are the rules in this case? Because I see this, they love each other. The kids know all the kids know each other. But you know what? The crows and the clowns show up at the funeral. What do you do?
In New Jersey, a partner that is not registered, if you're living with a partner and you're not registered as a domestic partner, that partner has absolutely no rights in the deceased party's estate. The only rights come via the deceased party's last will and testament. So if the person is not named in a last will and testament, if the survivor is not named at all and everything goes to the deceased person's children, then they're out of luck. The children can do anything they want with the property, and the survivor has absolutely no rights. So it's not only a tax issue, it's also an issue of your rights in the estate of your domestic partner. You're treated as a spouse if you have the domestic partnership filed. If you don't have it, you're not treated as a spouse. Basically, you're treated as a stranger.
What about this rule? I hear people saying, well, I heard that if you common law, if we're married, if we're together for XYZ years, we have common law. What are they saying?
Ain't no such thing as common law in New Jersey.
Okay. Alex?
That's as easy as that is. All right, guys, we got about one more minute here. And so what I want you to do, I want you to roll into the phone number, but finish off with, a 1-minute thought on the healthcare benefits. Just real quickly, the benefits from a healthcare perspective when you're in a partnership like this.
Well, the health care is normally given by an employer to an employee. Most of the employers are treating a domestic partner the same as a spouse. But it's not law that the state can rule and regulate. It's the companies regulated, and the companies are going towards giving the domestic partner the same rights as a spouse. And the domestic partnership law is statewide. So each state has to recognize it. If your state does not recognize it, you don't have a domestic partnership relationship, and it's not governed by federal law. So if you're a domestic partner, you can file a joint return with the state of New Jersey. If you're a domestic partnership, you still cannot file a joint return with the federal government. It has to be individual.
And Scott,
but Alex, it goes one more thing. It's called who's going to make the decision if you're in the hospital, nursing care. Who's making those decisions? That goes to the power of attorney agreement. In addition to what Dave was mentioning about this tremendous agreement that people need to put in place.
Yep, very important stuff. And if you have questions about this, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. We got more reasons coming up here for common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. This is really interesting stuff. We're going to come right back, talk about parental rights, financial planning, and more. On the other side, this is Financial Insanity.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investment advice is offered through Bell Point Asset Management, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Can we really live the go-go years, or am I going to scrimp and save and stay at home and watch TV, watch Bob Barker? I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today on a special edition of Financial Insanity. Scott and I, joined by Dave Connolley. He's been a lawyer in the area for over 40 years, currently a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo. Today, we're talking about estate planning for unmarried partners. Oh yeah, we cover it all, baby. And we are going over some common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. We just love on this show, and we just want to help you no matter what your love looks like. Let's talk here about parental rights, and I know we also want to get into financial planning.
Thanks, Alex. I'm so glad that if you're listening right now, we've spoken about it a lot. I want you to be able to go back to our website and be able to listen to this recording. If you are thinking about moving in with your lover, maybe you're in with your lover right now, I can promise you need to take your legal. Now, why would a financial planner talk about these legal documents? Because I call the three blind mice and they don't talk to each other. And there we could do financial planning, which Alex just time we're going to talk about. But the question is, financial planning not only encompasses money, it also encompasses the assets, like the house, like the other real estates, property. Dave, Alex brought up an issue about parental rights. Now, obviously, this is different. So go over that, Dave.
If there's an issue of parental rights, there's going to be, in all likelihood, a court hearing. A lot of people go into the domestic relationship with the idea that if they don't want to continue with that relationship, all they have to do is file a notice of termination with the same township that they filed the original domestic relationship documents with, and it's done. And that's correct. But if there's a problem with parental rights, if there's a problem with distribution of property, then you're in the same type of relationship as a married couple getting divorced. So you do have the rights of a spouse with respect to your children. You do have the rights of a spouse with respect to distribution of property, but you're in family court arguing the matter.
That could cost a lot of money. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, you can't eliminate that if the parties can't agree to distribution of property or custody of child and visitation. It has to go to court, and the only one that can decide is a judge. But you're not getting any more or any less rights by entering into a domestic partnership. If everything is agreed to, you don't have to go through a divorce. You just file a termination and you're done.
So this leads us into the will. Now it leads us into the power of attorney. The power of attorney, let's say, is we spoke about Tom and Maggie, the clients you helped before. Tom had 2 children. Maggie had 3. They lived in Maggie's house. But Maggie, of course, lights went dim, and now she's in the nursing home, and she didn't update her legal documents. Now her children take over, even though Tom may be able to stay in the house if they fix that. And now Maggie's children are in charge, and Tom has to stay on the side and say nothing. Is that about right, Dave?
Yeah, if they don't have a domestic partnership filed, then Tom has no rights in the house. If they do, then he has the same rights as a spouse.
But how about rights to speak to the doctor? How about rights to say what medicine she can take? How about rights that would be the power of attorney? Is that right for healthcare matters?
The primary documents you have is a power of attorney, the healthcare directive, and that names a person that will represent the party in the hospital. Without that, it's a very gray area, and it depends on whether the hospital will talk to the domestic partner or not, or the kids. They don't want to get sued. That's the biggest concern of the hospital, not to make a decision based upon one party when you have several parties disagreeing with that decision.
Yep.
So we have the issue I mentioned before. Tom's got 2 children living at Maggie's house. Maggie has the assets. Maggie signed some paperwork giving Tom the life rights, I guess, until he passes away or something like that. I guess whatever Dave's going to say. The next question is, of course, the stock market is dropping, and maybe Maggie wants to get her money out of the accounts and move them to a safer position. Maggie doesn't know how to do it. Tom knows how to do it. So that's called a power of attorney for financial matters, but her children are involved. What happens?
Power of attorney takes precedence over the children being involved. If Maggie had executed any documents appointing her domestic partner as being in charge, that'll prevail to the extent of overturning any decision that the children want.
Right. So Maggie being obviously her kids are in charge. Tom has to stand on the sideline and watch all this happen with nothing to say. And after 17 years, you'd figure you'd have something to say. Guys, if you're out there and you haven't had a legal review, a financial review, I call it the 3D approach. Alex, we spoke about the 3D approach at our firm. Alex, can you explain what we spoke about the 3D approach when we meet with people and the process that's so important because they're leaving the tax, the legal, and the finances out?
Yeah, well, and that's what it's all about. It's that if you're not taking a 3D approach, you're not looking at everything. And that's what you can do is you're going to look at all aspects to make sure that everything is covered. And so you're going to go through all the 3Ds, Scott, and explain the Ds for folks so that they can understand when they come into you. This will help give them guidance of where the conversation is going to go.
It's so important if you have, as I say so many times when I meet with people, first time I meet with people, we talk about the 3D, the dreams, the dollars, and the dynasty. The dream portion is what you want. What does it look like? So in case if you're a domestic partnership, maybe you need to clean up your legal stuff, as well as your financial stuff we're going to talk about, which goes into the dollars. Let's fix this up. Who takes care? And then the dynasty. Who's going to help you through this matter? This is where you pull in the three blind mice. Well, let's take their glasses off, take a 3D approach, look at the dreams, look at your dollars, look at your dynasty. So at McLean Advisory Group, we take a look at everything. This is not just simply set it and forget it. This is not simply let's just take care of the money. Well, just today I had an appointment saying I never had this approach. I don't know why people don't do this. And Dave and I have been together for over 40-something years, Dave in the legal world, me in the financial world, and I just still don't understand why they don't do it, but I do know it. It's how do I get the money quickly and I can go on to the next victim or next person. I shouldn't say it that way, but I feel that way because they're not looking at everything, and this is why the three blind mice could destroy how it leads your money to a financial mousetrap.
Yep. And if you want McLean Advisory Group to take that 3D look, to take that holistic approach at your retirement, your finances, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Really enjoying today being joined by Dave Connolley, who is a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo and has been a lawyer in New Jersey for over 40 years. Like Scott just mentioned, they've been working closely together for a very long time, and they still like each other, which is great, coming on here and doing the radio with us. Yeah. Well, I was trying, Scott. All right, so let's talk here about property. How can being in this sort of agreement, when we're talking about a domestic partnership, maybe, we're not going through marriage, we're getting this agreement instead, how can this maybe protect some property that is owned by the couple or maybe a member of the relationship?
Well, the primary thing is to get the documents in place that would distribute the property at a person's death, primarily the last will and testament. And that should be reviewed every couple of years to make sure that the facts are still consistent and nothing has to be changed. If there is no marriage and there is no domestic partnership, then the person who owns the property can do anything they want. The person that is living there as a partner but with no formal documentation has no interest in any of the property that the other person has. So to protect the parties, I've seen where, as Scott says, people have been together for 15, 20 years, never filed anything, never got married. The male passes away, and the female, who was the survivor, has no interest in anything, and everything just goes by intestacy to his kids.
Yep. Well, and Scott, finish off this segment here just talking about how that you are going to have a domestic partnership, a couple come in and talk to you just like a married couple. You're going to help them with their financial planning. Just talk about how the access and the benefits of getting that financial planning is something that this agreement can help with as well.
When we go through the process, people come in, we are looking, as you said, Alex, as everything. What if scenarios? Every scenario is a what if scenario. So in the event of us, as the illustration we gave about Tom and Maggie living in the house, the question is, do they have where's Tom going to go? What's going to happen? How much assets? Let's say Tom has a pension and Maggie has a pension, but they don't have the benefits, and the benefits can't afford keeping the house up. What's going to happen? What happens if Tom goes to the nursing home? Who's going to pay for it? Or let's say Maggie goes into the nursing home. Tom's taking care of the house. Who's paying the upkeep of the house? This is the scenario when people meet with our firm, and we've got wonderful people in our firm with tax and legal, as well as the financial planners, myself, George, other people. We think about this. I need to know the whole picture. What are the dreams? you plan on staying? Do you want to move? This is not a cookie cutter solution because they don't work. Everybody's not the same, obviously. I'm a lot better looking than Dave or Alex. I can tell you that because I'm blind. But the bottom line is it doesn't matter when you pass away. It matters when you're alive. The question is, what's in writing? The whole meeting of today is what's in writing? What are the rules? So when the kids step into the picture, I call them the crows and the clowns, show up at the funeral. And the question is, that's where Pandora's box opens up, and assets, fees, taxes, as we spoke about in this show, can get disgusting and avoidable. This is why when people visit with us, Alex, by the way, if you're listening to me right now, please don't put this off. Procrastination is the mother of most people. Give our studios a call. I'd love to speak. If you want to speak to myself off the air, you want to speak to Dave, call our studio, 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. Have your questions written down. We'll go right to the meat of it, but I want to know the whole picture. And that's when people visit with us one-on-one. We can get the both pictures from both of the partners coming into the office, not just one side, because you may be out there thinking you're going to do this, but your partner is thinking something totally different. Why? Because you haven't brought it to light.
Yep.
Putting things off causes bigger problems. It causes the problem to exponentially multiply. 609-488-4646. Hey, we're here for you guys. Doing this business now for over 40 years, helping one-on-one, helping you make smart decisions with your money. Give us a call. We'd love to take your call and help you and guide you through this jungle of decisions.
Yep. Thank you for that, Scott. Today, discussing common reasons for obtaining a domestic partnership agreement. We're going to go over end-of-life decisions, retirement benefits, and more when we come back. This is Financial Insanity.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Scott McLean from McLean Advisory Group agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why McLean Advisory Group was started. Scott wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement planning. McLean Advisory Group is more than just convenient. They're knowledgeable and experienced. And for answers for your questions, you can set up a meeting with Scott and his team to talk about your retirement. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. Use the same number to reach the team online. 609-488-4646.com. Investment advisory services are offered through Bell Point Asset Management, LLC. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax or legal advice.
Put your positive hat on. Let's have a call it a come to Jesus meeting. Let's have a real live discussion. Let's get somewhere and put a game plan together.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today. A special edition. They're all special, but this one's even more special than usual. It's Financial Insanity. I'm Alex Dingman alongside Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. And we're joined here by Dave Connolley. I guess it's been long enough that Dave said, all right, it's been long enough. I'll come back and talk with you guys again. Dave is a consultant for the firm of Elizabeth Apollo, been a lawyer, though, in the area of New Jersey for over 40 years. Discussing today estate planning for unmarried partners, as this is something that's really been growing as far as in popularity in recent years and decades. So there are some common reasons for couples to obtain a domestic partnership agreement. We've been going over those today. Let's talk about something very important, guys, end-of-life decisions and having this agreement in place and how critical that can be.
Well, as we were speaking about, whose house is it? Let's say it's a joint house, or maybe one of the other's houses. Do you have the right to stay there? That's critical. You need to know that. In addition to that question, let's say in our segments before, we had Tom and Maggie in Maggie's house. Tom is living with Maggie at 17 years. This is a case that Dave helped with. The names have been changed. But notwithstanding, now Maggie goes to a nursing home. Dave is in her house. Could he be kicked out? I don't know. And then Maggie passes away. Can she be kicked out if there's no agreement in place? Dave, what happens to our friend Tom? Is he going to go have to look around for another place?
In all likelihood, he will. And not only that, the nursing home, if you're in a nursing home, will also put a lien on a house. If it was owned by domestic partners or spouses, they can only attach half the house. If it's just in the person who is in the nursing home, then the nursing home can attach the full house for any payments of costs.
If you're listening out there, Dave made a very important point. I get this all the time, and I have Dave say it again, but this is very important. I get it time after time. Should I put my house into an irrevocable trust to protect from nursing home? I want to protect that money so my partner can stay there. But if my partner dies, all the money goes to my kids when my partner dies. This is so important, Dave. Go back again and say that again if you're a domestic partner versus not. Guys, this is protecting your assets from the nursing home facilities.
The Medicaid Asset Protection Trust is very important. It's very complicated to understand. Basically, you're putting your house in a trust that will insulate any liens being put on the house if a person is getting Medicaid in order to go into a nursing home. And a lot of people think Medicaid is only for the poor. Well, that's the intent, but you can own a house with equity of $950,000 and still qualify for Medicaid. So it's a complicated area, but it's something that people should at least take a look at to see if they want to take that approach in order to protect their assets. You need to be married if you're going to protect the asset for the person that is not going into the nursing home. Like I say, it's a very complicated area of law, and it's not only law, it contains a lot of different elements, such as financial planning, but it's something that you have to sit down and really study and say, am I willing to give up my house, put it into a trust, and at that point, it will be protected from my creditors.
Talking today about domestic partnership agreements. Very important stuff. Some common reasons to obtain one of these if you are out there and maybe a marriage not in the cards, just a decision, or maybe you just kind of want to know the difference here, or maybe you're in a domestic partnership and you're not even sure of all the things that entails. And so talking about that today, if something raises questions for you, the number is 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. And talk here briefly along the same lines of what we've been hitting on, but cohabitation agreement, and how does this is this part of a reason why someone might join a domestic partnership agreement?
It depends on what's in the agreement. You put anything you want in an agreement, cohabitation or whatever, but it's not going to be the same. It's an agreement between parties. It's not the same as a domestic partnership agreement, which is sanctioned by the state, and as a result, you get more benefits from the state, such as being able to file a joint tax return. So whatever the agreement, a cohabitation agreement is, it's only as good as the terms and conditions that are negotiated, whereas a domestic partnership agreement is by law, it tells you what you can and can't do.
No, that's very good.
Dave, let's say I've got a girlfriend, we'll call her Sue, and Sue and I it's my house. Sue is living with me. And so all of a sudden, I give Sue, we don't have any agreements, nothing in place, but I go to the lawyer and he gives me, draws up an agreement. I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to give Sue life rights to my house. And in the event I pass away or going to the nursing home, Sue has the right to stay in that house until she dies, becomes disabled, or if she decides to move out, or maybe she decides to get married. I don't want Sue and her new spouse or boyfriend to move in or girlfriend to move in my house. Is there such an agreement? When I die and she dies, I want to make sure that my kids get the full asset.
Absolutely. You can even put that in a will. You can put that in a separate agreement. Basically, you're saying that you're giving your partner the ability to stay as a tenant in the house so long as that person pays for all the repair, upkeep, taxes, or whatever else is involved in maintaining the house. And upon the death or moving out or going into a nursing home of that person, then the agreement will be held null and void, and the children can sell the house or do whatever they want. That's definitely a valid agreement.
So really, if I don't want to get, for those people who are saying, I don't want to get married, I don't want a domestic partnership, but I do want to take care of my sweetie, this is another way to do it, but it's not is it perfected? Is it okay to do that?
It's definitely okay, but it's between two parties. One party determining the terms and conditions of how the other party will stay in the house.
Can the kids kick Sue out? Let's say I decide to let Sue stay there. I pass away. She has life rights. Can they kick Sue out if I give her life rights?
Well, I can try to, but it's up to the court to determine whether the agreement will hold water or not. If the agreement is valid and written with strong language, and they're going to lose. The kids are going to lose. If the agreement is haphazard, well, they may win. It depends on how strong the agreement is. But you can always contest the agreement. The question is, are you going to win or lose?
Alex, I find this funny because when I meet with people, it's funny when I ask people to visit with our firm and we go over the 3D approach, whether it's the dreams, the dollars, or the dynasty, as we talk about the dynasty now, and meeting, I want to read their will, power of attorney, living will. How many people haven't, by the way, if you're listening to me, this might be you, so I don't want to insult you, haven't dusted off their will and read it, or dusted off their power of attorney or their living will or their healthcare directive. They haven't looked at it. And if you're a lawyer out there, if you haven't visited with your clients in over a few years, you might want to strum them up and give them a call, because not paying attention to details, your executor could be your daughter, but what if she passed away? Or what if her lights went dim? Or your executive could be your wife, but you have no backup. This is the problem I see when it comes to life decisions. And then it goes into the retirement benefits, the benefits coming in from the financial planning and the assets, and where do they go, and what happens to the assets that maybe the one of the parties were expecting to come in to pay the house. Now they can't even afford to stay in the house. This is a problem. This is why people meet with me, and over again, I'm drilling down to find out what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario. What do we focus on, Alex? What's the worst case scenario? Because people don't think worst case is going to happen. Today, you're healthy. You see, you're playing golf on the golf course. You're bowling alley. You're having fun, having a pizza and playing mahjong. And the next day, you can't even wake up and move. This is life. It's not the golden years for many people. It's the rusty years. And boy, when the rust happens, the problem is we got to go to the dynasty planning, the legacy. This is a problem.
Right. And that's why it's just so important to talk about this, to talk about a domestic partnership agreement, just to get this out here. And this has been really interesting, maybe eye-opening for some folks that are out there, and maybe they don't have any paperwork. And I know it's not the sexiest thing. It's not the most exciting thing, but
not at all.
But Scott and Dave and Scott there in his office can help you through the process, and it really can be beneficial. And we just have a little bit of time left. Again, that number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And maybe just close this segment by talking about the personal commitment the agreement can serve as well, because that's obviously a huge part of this.
This goes between the lawyer, financial advisor, and the two partners to help them really guide you along. Our job as a financial planner and as a lawyer is not to tell you what to do, but since we've gone down this road now, Dave over 40 years and me over 40 years, although Dave's a lot older and I'm a lot better looking, but after a period of time, you kind of learn a thing or two, and we can guide you, but we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you several situations that we have been involved with that You probably are not involved, but this is all we do. This is nothing but this is all we do. This is our passion. I mean, I can tell you that if you haven't sat down and your financial advisor hasn't reviewed the legal documents as well as the tax documents and financial documents and haven't spoken to those of you that are possibly thinking about domestic partnership, those of you that maybe that are married and haven't really reviewed this is a problem. And those of you who have no documents, this is just don't be double dumb. Take action and get to it, because there's nothing worse than procrastination. And all of a sudden, I can tell you, Dave has done this several times. He has to take a road trip, go to the hospital, and meet with people. Dave, do you remember that? I mean, you've been to several hospitals and you have to do paperwork. Tell the audience what you've noticed.
Well, at that time, hopefully they're still cognizant and they can talk to you and let you know what they want to do. Otherwise, it's too late.
Dave said it's too late. It's never too late. Give our studios a call. Let's talk about it. Don't put this off. You give us studies. Come down here, speak to Bonnie, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Meet with me in person, no cost, no obligation. I promise you, I give you my word, because why? It's good, and we've been around for many years. I want to make sure you're buttoned up, and this is how our name gets out there, why we have such a great name in the area, and want to invite you to down 609-488-4646. Alex,
yes,
thanks for allowing us to share the show with you, because I know it's not being done, and this is critical.
No, so good. And Dave, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
My pleasure.
All right, and we'll be back. We got a mailbag segment to close things out, so don't go anywhere. This is Financial Insanity.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646. Investment advice is offered through Bell Point Asset Management, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Sounds like the mailman's here.
It's time to answer questions from the McLean Advisory Group mailbag.
Now time for one of our funnest segments. We really enjoy this, getting questions from the audience. Scott, I know you're ready for our mailbag segment. You're listening to Financial Insanity. And if you hear something and it raises an idea, concern, something you may have, 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. And Scott, let's just jump right into it here, my friend. Here's the first question. This person's worked at the same company for 25 years. They had a 401k there. That's great. But a big merger, and now I'm not sure how to track down that account. I've definitely heard of this happening before. What tips do you have for Scott for trying to seek out that old 401k?
Wow. Well, first of all, they should have a statement at least once a month, if not once a quarter, for the statements of the 401k. If they've been there for 25 years, I can tell you they've been either not paying attention to statements, or maybe they checked off a box on their investment to make it all email, but they need to call the HR department. Of course, based on the big merger, you want to see if there's any stock options. Did they have any stock options? Were they there before the company? Obviously, you've been there for 25 years. There might be some options there. And so you need to go to the HR department, then over the investment department, ask them, of course, where's the money? Maybe it's payroll. Maybe it's that simple, but it's being real proactive. And if you start hearing the rumbling in the street, make sure you get your affairs in order, and then have a meeting with someone, with an advisor who can look at holistically their investments. And if they got laid off, not laid off, there's going to be a buyout, what's going to happen? This is a lot of questions there. That's a huge question on just one simple question, but it's really, really big. And I think you're going to hear, based on the economy, how it's going, you're going to hear about perhaps layoffs. Like when I was a young kid in the 80s, they call it age discrimination. Well, now they can just go ahead and get rid of the old people because they have it contractually. So this is really important. You pay attention to your investments, your dollars, and again, where are they to make good money?
That's great, Scott. All right, another question here. This person says that they've done a pretty good job keeping track of that dreaded B word, the budget, and finances during adult life. But, important question here, why is it so important to have someone else do this budgeting for you in retirement?
You know, everybody who wants to win in sports and goes into competition, they're not their own coach. They've got to get a coach. And so you might be overlooking things, maybe overseeing how you're working out, how you throw the football, how you hit the golf ball. They need a coach. When it comes to investment, this is really, really challenging when you try to do it yourself, you run the budget. And if you go meet with the investment advisor who's done this for many, many years, they've seen people make good mistakes and bad mistakes. There are good mistakes. You can correct things, obviously. At least you tried. But there's no do-overs in retirement. So having another set of eyes is almost like, it's almost like when I was looking for my keys the other day, and my wife said, I said, where's my keys? Where'd you put my keys? Scott, look on the table. I'm looking on the table. Scott, are you looking at the table? Look to your left. I'm looking to my left. Now, obviously, I was in a hurry. I need to get out. But she said, she came over to me. She grabbed my hand kindly and very calmly, luckily. A scotoma is something you don't see, even though it's right in front of you. This is why people need another fresh set of eyes, because there are no do-overs in retirement, and one mistake could cost you hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially in choosing your Social Security and then choosing the right investment options. Alex, next.
Why are women so much better at finding things? It's not a question that's been sent in, but it's just true. It's just
more
true.
Patient.
All right. Well, here's a good one. So this person sent it in for their dad. They says, my dad's a worrier, and now I'm afraid he's going to worry himself to death over everything that he sees on social media.
That's real.
He's constantly getting all of this information, and it seems to be worrying him, scaring him. What advice can this person give to their father when it comes to social media and all this financial news?
Everybody has their view. I have my view. Alex, you have your view. We have different views. That's why I like looking at history. What can history teach us versus trying to guesstimate? History has a good way of repeating itself more often than not. But again, we have to have many different advisors. I think with one advisor in your world, in your life, because the wisdom comes from many advisors in the book I read. And oftentimes we need that. How do you tell your dad? Dad, let's come on. I don't know if you can tell your parents anything. They're going to do what they want to do. They're probably set in their ways. I don't mean to be ugly. I can just tell you, if they're set in their ways, or maybe you can say, let's go find a hobby. But then you need to say, Dad, or Mama, these are two different opinions. Opinions are, everybody has their opinion, but let's see what we can find out. Let's call a couple people and get their feedback. But I can tell you that will cause, psychologically, we know for a fact that bad news causes your health to decline. It's a positive mental attitude, not saying, oh, I hope the deficit goes away. No, we got to fix it. But it's keeping your head in the muck starts to smell. I can promise you. So they need to help get another advice, perhaps come in and say, let's talk to somebody else about it. But they need a fresh opinion. It sounds like they're kind of stuck in the muck. And it's really hard to do. Be very patient with your older parents, because pretty much it's going to be hard to change that habit. I'm sorry.
It's very true. No, very true. And we are going over some mailbag questions today. If you have questions, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646, add.com for the website. Scott McLean, Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. Another question here, Scott. What is your best advice for someone who maybe is 10 years away from retirement and doesn't want to make any big financial mistakes? Huge time here. If it was football, that'd be the red zone, I would think, for your retirement.
Boy, that's a great thought. 10 years. Most people come in the last 6 months or last 3 months.
I'm retiring next week, Scott. What should I do?
Exactly right. So for those people that are in or near, I should say, nearing retirement, congratulations if you're 10 years away thinking about it. Number one, pay attention to taxes. Pay attention to taxes. How can I increase my savings? Pay attention to investing, shifting from the G to the I. TR equals G plus I. TR, total return, equals growth plus interest. The goal is to shifting your assets to a more of an income play so you can live on the dividends and interest, not just on the growth. You can't spend growth. We spoke about that early in the segment. You can't spend growth, but you can spend the dividends and interest. 10 years away is a long time. Where do I put my money? Should I focus on a Roth IRAs as well as my 401k? Should I, if my spouse is retired, should I go ahead and continue funding my spouse's retirement? How much liquid cash do I need so when I retire, I have enough liquidity? And then I think the big cuss word most of the seniors or those becoming seniors like myself, here's a cuss word I think you need to memorize. It starts with the capital N and then the capital O. When people keep borrowing money from you, your kids keep coming to the well, perhaps you need to say no. And then I tell our clients, just tell them, my financial guy said I can't do it. Blame someone. I mean, my daughter used to want to go out and date a couple of guys, and she goes, "Dad, I really don't like that guy." I said, "Well, just tell him to come talk to me, and I'll help you out, honey. Use somebody else to help you out of that situation if you can't say no, because that's the biggest. We never know when we need extra cash. It could be the money is for you and your spouse if you're married. Then it's for your livelihood. Then it's for your fun enjoyment. So the go-go years. It goes to slow-go years, and maybe you can start giving it away. But it's about you first, you and your lovely spouse or your charities, but actually you and your family first, taking care of them. This is the biggest challenge I find, because what happens is when you get to that point, focus on your budget. But again, the cuss word, no. Start practicing no, because I can tell you that will start to bleed your money when you go into retirement and you're starting to help your kids. Well, they need it. Well, you're hurting yourself. It could be painful. So be very cautious of that.
If you have questions, the number for Scott, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just a couple minutes left, Scott. And I just wanted to ask you, if somebody maybe is on the fence about coming in, giving you a holler, what can you tell people about what it's like, the first contacts with you, and maybe that first visit? If somebody wants to come in, maybe if you could just kind of explain what that process is like for folks that maybe are first-time visitors, first-time callers into you.
Well, that's really enjoyable time. I think I encourage people, as Alex, you were saying, give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Ask for Bonnie. And what will happen is Bonnie will say, okay, great. She'll schedule a time to come in or over the phone. She'll ask you some questions. She'll send you a little questionnaire, not in depth, but just to get to know you. I want to get to know people, whether it's over the phone, via the Zoom, the internet stuff, you can see each other, or coming into the office. We're going to ask lots of questions that surrounding your family, who gets the money, your health, your benefits you have at work, your spouse. Perhaps your spouse passed away. Maybe you have inheritance. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff about you, because it's about who? You. When I hear people going to a financial office and giving that financial guy or gal money for the first time, or going to the bank, to me, they're just double dumb. Why? You need to get to know the whole picture, not just a quick salesman. That drives me absolutely crazy when people come in there and say, well, we got a great product, and they're selling product. It's not about product. It's about, well, we don't need, if we're a carpenter, we don't need a drill and we don't need a bit. We just want that hole. Well, to get the hole, you got to have a drill and bit. I want to know what kind of planning, what kind of personality you are. Is this a good fit for me as well as a good fit for you? It's a two-way street because retirement planning, investment planning is a two-way street. It's got to meet. I need to know your investment strategies. I need to know your investment outlook. I need to understand the good, bad, and ugly you've been through so we can avoid those issues. This is why, whether it's one meeting or two meetings, we don't do business the first one or two meetings ever. We get to know people. This, to me, is very important.
I love it. I just love you framing that up for folks. 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646. This has been another episode of Financial Insanity with Scott McLean. Great show as always, my friend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right, you too, my friend, and everybody out there.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.